August 18th. My name is Sabrina Simmons. I'm the vice chair of this council. And we're going to get started with the agenda items.
Okay, first, before you do though, I have a couple things that I need to jump in on though, Sabrina. So if I could have the floor, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, Don, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. First of all, folks, thank you for attending the LAC. I'd like to just go over the purpose of the LAC as written in the bylaws, just so that we remember exactly what we're charged to do in this LAC meeting. Item 1, we're to review and comment upon the DDOT Section 10E plan that is submitted to the Michigan Department of Transportation yearly. And the LAC members know that we dealt with that about a month or so ago. 2, to review and comment upon DDOT's Americans with Disability Act's accessibility plan and any related documents regarding FTA and the ADA and any regulatory issues that might affect transportation. C, to review and advise DDOT on proposed changes to policies that pertain to or otherwise affect older adult and persons with disabilities prior to their adoptions by DDOT. Number 4, to advise DDOT on impact of proposed changes to service levels and fares on older adults and persons with disabilities. And finally, to advise DDOT on transit-related issues that may pertain to or otherwise affect older adults and persons with disabilities. I think it's kind of, since we've been kind of scattered here and not being able to meet in person, it's good to kind of review exactly what we should be doing in order to maintain our focus on what the LSC is about and what we need to accomplish, regardless if COVID is making it difficult for us to do things. So Sabrina, that's all I wanted to say. And you can start with the agenda. We'll go from there. Sabrina?
Hello.
Sabrina?
Don, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Just some technical difficulties. I can't pull up my agenda, so give me a second.
Okay.
Or would you say the first agenda item and then I'll get it?
Well, it's a call to order, and if you have any remarks you'd like to make, and then we would go to the approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
The only remarks I have is that we moved through the transportation challenges and just bring things to awareness. Everyone to be mindful to truly provide feedback to DDOT from the smallest to the biggest thing, from the good things to the bad things. It's good for them to know what's going on in the community, and this committee in itself and the staff members of DDOT can't do it by themselves. So we need to come together as a community and provide that feedback to DDOT. So whether it be a long haul situation or a paratransit situation, that they're truly getting a true picture of what's going on with the transportation services here in the city of Detroit.
Okay. All right, we need approval of the May 19th, 2020 meeting minutes. I'm trying to see how many members we have of the council. Jennifer, are you there?
I am.
How many people you got in that queue for members?
Right now in the panelist section, and this is including DDOT staff, we have a total of 17 people. And so I'm not sure who.
Well, can we have a roll call then for members of the LAC?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll do that, Sabrina, okay?
Okay.
District 1, Andre Bryant, are you here? Okay, he was at, Okay, District 2, Cecilia Collins. District 3, I know James Jones. District 4, Tammy Black, you're here.
Yes.
Okay. Sabrina's here. Miss Roundtree's having difficulty. District 7, Faye Chenault. Tamara,
Yes, I'm
you're
here.
here, right? Okay.
Yes.
I know for a fact that 3 of our members, James Jones, Faye Chenault, Anita Owen, and Miss Roundtree are having some technical difficulty in getting on. Miss Owen and Miss Roundtree are having problems calling in, and Mr. Jones was having some difficulty connecting. So perhaps we should forego the approval of the minutes and go on to administrative reports. Do you have your agenda yet? Sabrina?
Please click this URL to join. Actions available. Use the rotor to access messages.
Don,
Yeah.
oh, I'm still pulling up the agenda. I'm sorry,
Okay. Ms. Owen? Yeah. Okay, give me 1 second. I'll be right with you, okay? Don't give me 1 second. Okay, let's keep moving on if we can, please, to administrative reports. Chief, are you there? Can you start?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is
Okay.
doing well and taking care. I only have a couple
Okay,
of quick items.
ID is 963.
I'm waiting for Mr. Lozen.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I have a couple of quick items. Again, I want to request everyone that they know, please wear masks when in public, especially when within distance of people and trying to use public transportation. We do have masks available for those who don't have them on the buses. We're requesting all passengers wear the mask for the safety of themselves and others, as well as our drivers. Also, any complaints or issues with bus being passed up by buses or things of that nature, and you want to call to complain, there is a customer service phone number, not the transit police, but a customer service number, 313-933-1300, 313-933-1300. That's customer service. When you call during business hours, they can immediately input your information into a database and a system where it can be tracked, investigated. That's the easiest and best way to have your complaints addressed. Second, do your best to maintain social distancing. And because of this, our drivers unfortunately have to be mindful of the number of passengers they have on their buses. Therefore, if they get to a point where they feel the social distancing is being jeopardized, they will pass up passengers standing at the bus stops. Please understand, DDOT is doing all it can humanly possibly do to address this situation by having road supervisors follow up and back up and things of that nature. I'll let DDOT touch on that, but I just want to touch on the base that some people are losing their patience and becoming physically angry at our buses. And we're just asking for people to have patience and understand the situation we're dealing with. And that's all I have to report at this time. Any questions? Did anyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Unmute, Don. Unmute, Don.
I'm there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, Josh Reed, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, do you have anything to report?
I would just add that, I'd like people just, keep in mind social distancing, wearing PPE. Paratransit's been extremely challenging, trying to make sure that we're sanitized, trying to get barriers in the vehicles. And while we're social distancing and transporting less people per vehicle, it takes us longer to make our loop. So the most time you can give us, the better. But continue to practice social distancing, wearing your mask, and communicate with us.
Okay. Anything about paratransit you want to say at this point?
No, unless Simone has anything to add to that, it's been going fairly well, especially with everything that's been happening. The on-time performance has stayed relatively strong through all this pandemic. But again, safety and sanitation is our top priority.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Larry Luckett, did you make it on? I know he was having some problems. Okay, Larry Smith, you're there.
Good morning, Don. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just to kind of piggyback off what Chief Brown was reiterating there, please be mindful that, of course, the issues that we're seeing are not just isolated to DDOT. These are issues that all transit agencies are experiencing, are trying to work through. This situation isn't anything, of course, that anyone could have planned for. So right now, it's just, taking the bumps as we get them and trying to do everything we can to right this ship. And so the biggest update that we would have right now as far as operations goes would be on our last meeting, I discussed some of the different avenues that we were looking at, some service changes that we were trying to see if they would work or, if it would be conducive to the way we're running our system. And we kind of took the feedback that everyone was given. And again, thank you all for that. Please don't stop calling in, leaving your feedback, suggestions, things of that nature that you are seeing out there on the road, because that also helps us do our job. Outside of just the data that we track, the different reporting mechanisms that we have in place, your feedback is still important because you guys are the riders. You guys are the ones that are out there that can kind of help us continue to do what it is that we have to do to make this thing right. And so what we were able to do was we took all of that feedback that we received throughout June and throughout July. And as you all know, previously, the way we were running our schedule, there was a lot of on the time, kind of on the spot changes that we were making, to utilizing our road supervisors, transit police, dispatch, to kind of see where, the most of our riders were, areas that we were lacking, where service wasn't to the level that we would like it to be. And so we took all of those things that we tracked and tried to piece together a better way of making this work. So what we did was, as of this past Saturday, we actually implemented an internal process, an internal schedule with our drivers. They repicked off of some of the routes that we facilitated. And what we did was we isolated our workload to kind of better represent what our ridership looks like on those heavy lines. So even though we were telling you all that, yes, we're running service and it is as a Saturday schedule, a lot of the lines we had to beef up a little bit more because of the way ridership was working. And people are, of course, going back to work. Some things are being loosened. The different mandates are being loosened up. And so, of course, transit has to reflect that. So as far as this past Saturday, the new pieces that we put in place that you will see is that the majority of those high ridership lines, like your Grand River, your Woodward, Gratiot, 7 Mile, Warren, Greenfield, Dexter, 8 Mile, as well as some others, will be running on a Monday through Friday headway. So those routes you will see, those buses should be coming, in that 15, 20-minute time frame, 30 minutes for some of the other routes, whereas some of the other lines that don't exhibit as much of the ridership has still been running on that Saturday schedule. But that doesn't mean that we aren't still monitoring. That doesn't mean that we are not still out there seeing what needs to be done. I have road supervisors committed to each route, as well as each district in the city. Try to make sure that we're keeping tabs on everything that's going on and monitoring that, as well as great data that's coming from our data and reporting team. So all we can ask is that you guys work with us as we continue to try to right this ship and continue to put things in place to make this thing better.
Okay.
All right, Don, I'm here.
Oh, Larry, good to have you here. Okay. All right. We'll go back to you then. If you're done, Mr. Smith, we'll go back to Larry Luckett.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you for that report. Larry?
All righty. Good morning, everyone, and glad to see everyone staying safe. Just a couple things from vehicle maintenance. As you know, we're still continuing to sanitize buses, clean buses. I would have one ask, as we continue to put masks on the buses for passengers, be mindful that if you could, passengers take one mask. Don't grab a whole handful. You know, we're going through quite a few right now. But we're continuing to support operations and make sure they have the equipment they need to provide the service. And that's about it for now.
Good morning. This is Sabrina. I have a question, and I'm not sure if it should be directed at Larry Smith or Larry Luckett. I hear that there are cleaning positions on to clean buses. Can you elaborate on that and how a citizen would proceed in applying for those positions?
I'll take that one, Larry. They can go on our website, the city's website, and the position is called Coach Service Attendant. That's Coach Service Attendant, and they can apply there, and then we'll take a look. Right now, I want to say fully complemented in that area, but that changes daily. So just have them look out for that position on the city's website, and we'll be glad to take the application and see if we can employ. So please.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Don, you're muted, but I had a comment quick.
Yeah, go ahead. I was on a phone call. I'm sorry.
No problem. I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to comment, both Larry Smith and, well, everybody's really mentioned customer service, and it's really important. I can't emphasize the importance of contacting customer service when you have issues, because we are pulling that data to realign our routes. So please make sure you're calling the 313-933-1300 number.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, Sabrina, did you get an agenda yet?
Don,
Yes?
this is Pam King,
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Pam.
Regulatory Compliance Officer. I just want to say that MetroLift Reservations is doing a pilot program as far as we have like 10, maybe a little more, but where we're doing a pilot program for scheduling. And we hope to bring that to everyone soon. Also, along with Mr. Reed, I will be an overseer for paratransit. I will be monitoring the service. So if you have any
Yes.
problems with paratransit that are not resolved, please feel free to contact me at PAMKIN@DetroitMI.gov. Again, that's PAMKIN@Detroit, spell it out,
Yeah, I see.
MI.gov. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take care of it. Okay, bye. All right, if people
Right,
can
are there any other administrative reports?
This is Ricky from Data Reporting.
One second,
I could mention a few things.
1 second.
Oh, okay, Ricky, go ahead.
Thank everyone for participating. Just wanted to make mention the data and reporting that we are watching 3 measurements pretty closely. Overall ridership by route and stop. Overcrowding is a condition that we're watching closely, and we're watching it specifically by trip and by stop level. And the customer service reports. I can't say enough that kudos to operations, customer service, and maintenance for the way that they're using this data. I wanted to assure everybody on the council that there's some great action items that are coming from this. They're always asking questions about how they can learn more about what's going on out in the field. Just kind of to springboard off that, our technology upgrade, I know that we talk a lot about our technology upgrade. These pandemic conditions are really putting challenge on our vendor partners to be able to come out and do installs for the rest of the project, but we have committed to putting features of the technology upgrade out as they become available. So, as soon as the vendors have the opportunity to put items in place and the pieces are working, we're working towards getting that technology upgrade out there. Please call 313-933-1300 if you have any feedback. Hopefully you're seeing some of the great things that are coming from the technology upgrade. I apologize. I wish it was more of a ribbon cutting where there was a big, balloons coming from the ceiling kind of thing where the technology upgrade was all, released at once. But these conditions have required us to put the items out piece by piece. So we are working hard to do that. Kudos to the team members and assuring everybody on the council that we are working towards those specific metrics because they need the most, I think, right now when it comes to dealing with the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other administrative reports?
Is Gina there?
I am. Basically going by what Larry Smith said, we went in and we adjust the schedule to accommodate the heavier routes. Hopefully we see some changes, which it also allows for more drivers to be on those heavier routes. But that's about all I got at this time. We did what we could to assist.
Okay.
Thank you, Gina.
Is Simone there?
Good morning. Simone is here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so just to reiterate what Josh was mentioning, we're still practicing the social distancing on the vehicles by reduction of our multi-loading and working with our providers to get the plexiglass or some form of partition in the vehicles to keep everyone safe, the riders and the drivers. Of course, we do have PPE gear on the vehicles as well. We encourage everyone when scheduling a reservation to make sure that they have a face covering. If they do not have a face covering, drivers have masks available for them. Drivers should also be wearing masks. So if there is if there's a driver that you notice that does not have on the mask, please make sure you bring it to our attention. Again, that's going back to calling our customer care department, but the providers are well aware and the drivers are aware as well that they need to make sure that the PPE equipment is being utilized. As far as like Pamela King was mentioning about the Michigan Right vendor platform, that's scheduled to roll out sometime in the third quarter. We do have 10 volunteers that we reached out to participate in the program. There are 8 who use the Metro Lift service strictly in the Detroit service area. And then there are 2 representatives that cross over into the Smart service area just to see how the application, will work. In addition to keeping the social distancing on the vehicles, the providers are practicing the sanitization, and the disinfecting of the vehicles. They're responsible for that in between trips, and then there's a thorough cleaning at the end of every shift. We still have our agents working remotely from home. So that's pretty much the reports that we have on the paratransit side of things.
Okay. The only other report would be mine. I just wanted to let everybody know that towards the end of May and then through June, I had several complaints from riders for issues not being picked up. Passed by, told they're not going to be picked up on a big bus and that they wouldn't be tied down. We did work with operations. We did resolve all those issues, and there was a lot of confusion both from the drivers and with the riders as to what exactly needed to happen since COVID-19. So we've been working on trying to communicate better, and we've been talking about broader things to make sure that, this COVID-19 thing is going to be around for a while, and we're going to have to work with all the protocols. So we need to, and we've been talking about how we can best communicate that to everybody. So we haven't had the ADA complaints, but we've been trying to communicate and put out information so that people know what to expect. It's a different concept, different world, and it's going to take some time. And I'd like to thank Larry Smith for his help and things. Secret Rider program, we're gonna probably start that in September. I've got a couple of volunteers. This is all volunteers. We're not putting people on the buses without them doing it. And we're gonna just take whatever data we can get from them when they need to ride and want to ride for their own personal use. So we're gonna do that. Like everybody else, the COVID-19 protocols are really important. They're the same across the country, and it's not just DDOT and everybody in Detroit, trying to make things tough on everybody, but it's the same, and everybody's reacting to whatever state they're in and how things are happening. There is a special service grant that we've been monitoring and I've been overseeing for the last couple of years. That grant process has been expanded in terms of the oversight committee. We got three people from the LAC that are going to be on that. So it's just to make sure that we have good oversight and that we get the monies to community agencies that can provide another level of service to those to the elderly and disabled community. So that's everything I have. Just to remind people, if you haven't heard about the new transit center at the fairgrounds and what that may mean for people's accessibility, keep that in mind. Read on the website, each Detroit website, what that's all about. And that's about it for me. So thank you. Okay, Sabrina, are you there? Okay. Sabrina, do you hear me? Okay, I know Miss Roundtree's on the phone and can hear us, but she's not really been able to communicate. So we've got seems like a lot of technical difficulty with LIC members today in terms of getting on the system. Moving on, we had an old business. We usually talk about, well, we've got an ongoing thing about MetroLift and any other concerns. I'll open it back to Simone as Pam talked about that pilot project with regards to reservation. Do you want to say something more about that? Simone?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
So yes, we have agents who are training with Valerie and the Phoenix team or the Right Project to enable those who would like to use a cellular device or a mobile app to schedule rides. That would reduce down on the call handling time and the waiting time that riders are on the phone trying to get through on the line. So it's a very interesting program. We look forward to rolling out the pilot. We've done some test trips and they seem to, work pretty well. Not with actual riders, of course. This is with our call center team, that's scheduling that in our administrative team. However, it is a positive program that we're looking forward to participating in. So, I mean, not much to report outside of training and that, it's basically for individuals to be able to use in lieu of calling in to schedule a reservation.
Okay.
And please note that when this does roll out, that when you schedule your reservations through the app, it's not an automatic reservation. You will be contacted to verify the reservation. So do not think it is an automatic reservation because you made it. The MetroLift team will be able to contact you back to let you know it's verified.
Okay. Are there any other things you can tell Simone? I'm always concerned about complaints. Have you had many complaints lately? Are there any issues related to your service and complaints that you can enlighten us on?
Of course, there have been some complaints, and we report these on a weekly basis. There are things with drivers not performing door-to-door service. So any provider or driver that has not fulfilled that obligation, of course, we do reach out to them. I know that drivers have expressed their concerns about social distancing and some riders not wanting to wear a mask. So we do reach out to the rider to encourage that face covering in order for the social distance, the door-to-door service to be accommodated. Most of the drivers, they, totally understand that they are required to perform the door-to-door service. And those who are having reservations about, performing that service, they'll go through additional training, let them know the proper way to assist someone and still keep themselves protected with the PPE gear. There have been some here and there complaints about drivers maybe arriving outside of the window. So we've also, adjusted that by adding more runs. Of course, with the reduction of service, there were also a reduction of drivers, who were not interested in driving anymore because there were not any rides. So we had to work with some of our providers to add more service to the road. That has improved our on-time performance. We're at 90%. And then you have the other complaints about clients not being able to have groceries in the vehicle or drivers not putting the groceries in the vehicle. Your typical complaints, but anything that you would like for us to address, we do encourage you to contact our customer care department. It's open Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. So any concern or comment that you may have, please feel free to bring it to our attention so we can address it appropriately. But other than that, if there is anything specific, Don, yes, there are complaints and there are things, that happen with the service, but we're working through those and addressing them as they are brought to our attention.
Okay, your level of service is at what? Are you like at 50% or 75% of what you would be normally?
Our level of service is cut in half, so we're at 50%.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody from the LAC that has any particular questions about MetroLift or anything that's going on with MetroLift?
Hello?
Somebody said something, I didn't hear you.
That was Sabrina. Sabrina was speaking.
Okay. Sabrina?
Yeah, my computer's like automatically reverting me back to mute, so my apologies for that. I do have a question in regards to the service. You're operating 50% as far as ridership. How does that look like with the drivers? Was there a 50% reduction in drivers? And service providers, are we still operating? I believe the last number I heard was about 8 different providers. Are we still operating with 8 different providers?
We are not, unfortunately. There were 2 providers that decided to be placed on hold with the pandemic situation, and that was Right Way and Comfort and Care. So we no longer have those two providers providing service. There are 7. Of course, we have Bright, Checker, Delray Lakeside, Mo Odyssey, and Peoples that are performing service. Of course, we also did lose drivers, and we are in the process of still hiring more drivers. There was a hold on that with getting police clearances and different things like that at the very, very beginning of the pandemic. But since the governor opened up the state in June, we were able to incorporate more drivers, and we're still in the middle of that process. But of course, some drivers are not satisfied because the volume is not there. So it's hard to keep drivers on the road. So we're bringing more in, and some decide to stay while others decide to look for employment elsewhere. And I'm sure it may be pretty comparable to the fixed bus route. It's just the world that we're living in right now, and we're working through it and making sure that everyone is serviced. It's still allowing us to perform at 90%, but yes, we have had a reduction in drivers and providers.
Okay, good to know. And then I have another question in regards to wheelchair, because I did have a couple people in wheelchairs reach out to me. What is the service level for wheelchair riders? It's to my understanding, and I don't have a specific name, but there was a young lady in a wheelchair left at a funeral home for over an hour outside of her window. So what is the service level for wheelchair riders?
I would need to investigate that particular situation to find out what happened, but our wheelchair service level is the same as with the regular service. We are operating at 100% with wheelchair accessibility. We don't have a delay with that. So anybody who schedules a ride with a wheelchair, we are able to accommodate that trip. I'm not exactly sure if her original ride came and she was no-showed, or I'm not sure what the details of that particular complaint is, but I would be more than happy to investigate that if you could give me a contact name and the date of travel.
Okay. So with that being said, you said you're operating at 100%. So does that mean that every vehicle has a lift now?
No, not every vehicle has a lift.
Okay.
My apologies.
Okay.
But we are still able to accommodate wheelchairs. We don't have a reduction in the service for the wheelchair. So any client that requires a wheelchair accessible vehicle, we are able to accommodate.
What is the percentage of riderships that are in wheelchairs or those who need a lift? Could you give me that number?
Roughly, I would say at 25. The last time that we checked, it was at 25, and that was the last quarter, but I would need to double check that.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Sabrina, I'll ask again, did you come up with an agenda?
I have the agenda up. I just have multiple things talking to me, Don, so.
Okay.
A minute.
Okay. So we're to new business.
I guess we covered the MetroLift information. So I know there were some things that were brought up in the meeting minutes in regards to MetroLift. I remember Mr. Norwood Johnson having a question and things of that nature. So I just want to make sure that any of our concerns raised in the last meeting in May have been resolved, or there's been resolved, or there's solution placed with it. So can we talk about some of those things, Simone?
Yes, Sabrina. I don't have the issues in front of me right now for Norwood Johnson, his particular complaint. Is there any way that you could reiterate what
Let me pull up
said?
my
I don't
list.
see it in the minutes.
I didn't have anything down as a public comment.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
Yeah.
Technology today is wonderful.
Camera, camera, flashlight, off, button. IV, VI. Ongoing Metro lift issues and VII. New business. Actions available.
Okay, so then I guess now we're on to new business.
Right.
A, DDOT service update. Actions available.
There's the first question, fixed line service update.
Yeah, if Larry Smith is still on, are you there, sir? Yeah. Okay. There's been, and that's one of my, what's one of my concerns was communicating. Can you talk about communicating to drivers the COVID-19 protocols, and then what's being done in order to make sure that wheelchair and because we know what the complaints were at the end of May and June, where being passed up, can't get on the front of the bus. Can you kind of explain what's gone on internally to make sure that drivers know exactly what to do for ADA ridership, and then what kind of community discussion would there be with regards to the COVID-19 protocols?
Sure, not a problem. So the first piece that you listed there, in regards to the issue that we had in May and June, which surfaced around wheelchair passengers either being passed up or being forced to board at the back, and not just wheelchair passengers, but all ADA being forced to board at the back of the coach. Right. So what we were able to do was operations as well as marketing. We got together and she created, the marketing team created a very nice map or an image per se that we utilized and we passed out to all drivers. We also facilitated memos that went out to all drivers who all had to sign off. So we made sure that each driver was physically touched in regards to making sure that they understood that the ADA community was allowed to board up front. And to date, that has shown improvement because to date, that number dropped very, very low in regards to what we have seen, as well as being transparent enough to let you guys know that, of course, discipline has followed. This isn't something that just the complaints come in and we see it and nothing is done about it. Discipline has followed to all of those that have been involved in any of those instances that we were able to identify who they were. But that also goes back to why we say it is very important for you all to communicate with us, send in those complaints, send in that feedback, because we do see it and we do take that into all consideration within all parties that are involved. So that is the first piece. The second piece is regarding the COVID-19 policies and procedures that we are putting in place. There is a constant rotation of information that we are putting out, whether it is with my terminals, where we have restarted back up our terminal meetings. Of course, due to social distancing, we had to kind of mitigate how we are facilitating those. Of course, we can only have so many people in the room at once, where we used to be able to get, half the terminal in at one given time. But we have been able to restart those back up to kind of offer any updates that are going on out there to make sure that the drivers are aware of the complaints that are coming in, as well as anything that they are doing. And again, Don knows me well enough to know that when those complaints come in, this isn't something that is overlooked. I bring it right to their attention. We find the ones that are involved and then also make all of the others aware, because of course it's not enough to just catch the ones that are reported. Of course, I'm pretty sure there are other instances that go on, and I would never make it seem as if our drivers or that we are completely without reproach, that nothing that we do doesn't come back to us. So I thank you guys for that feedback. But as far as the service updates, we're constantly monitoring. So this isn't something that just you send it in, we look at it one time, and then we roll it out. This is a weekly process, from Ricky's team sending over the data to meeting with marketing, finding out what they're getting, meeting with customer service, meeting with compliance, a lot of internal meetings that are taking place every week to ensure that all departments are communicating to make this thing work the way that it needs to be done. This isn't something that operations can just field by themselves, and I'm thankful to have other department heads that are willing to put our heads together to make sure that we can do what's necessary to get this right. But overall, internally, the constant meetings that we are having to offer communication between one another is what is allowing us kind of make it right going forward.
Okay, but like Chief said about, you know, people getting frustrated with the buses and what's going on. Yeah, I agree that we've made great strides in the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks regarding making sure the drivers know. But what about the next step of making sure the public knows? Because that's some of the phone calls and things that I've been getting, is people not understanding, you know, what exactly they're supposed to do when the dress comes. Well, what happens when the bus is full in the back and he's got the sign up, but he's got capability to pull up and pick up a wheelchair person, you know? Is that expected of the driver? And, you know, and how are we communicating that to the public?
So with that communication piece, I believe that that still comes back to the information that we facilitate through our marketing department. And again, that falls onto me. So to make sure that we are giving our marketing team the correct information. And again, we are facilitating those meetings every week to give them what's necessary to send out. But as far as what's going to the drivers and to the public, as of right now, the best option that we have to make this work is constantly touching them physically. And of course, with the overcrowding issues, that's why we say it is best to call, because when that driver is passing up, whether he's full, and you see that sign up front, whether it says that the driver is full or the driver pulls up and lets you know, hey, I'm at capacity. Again, I can't touch everyone, but the option that they are to follow is to either pull over, let you know, or they are to radio dispatch to let dispatch know, hey, this coach is currently full at the moment. And at that time, that information can be relayed out to the public.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments about what Mr. Smith or I have been bringing up, talking about here with regards to the fixed line service?
Yes, I do. Larry, you said that the driver can pull over and have the option to either let that passenger know or to call dispatch. Wouldn't that driver pull over and let that passenger know and then call dispatch so the passenger knows?
So what we've been exhibiting, and this is the reason why we say that it is an option, and this is what Chief Brown has reiterated, is that what we have witnessed is that in some instances, the driver will radio, and this is documented, where the driver can pull over, and the minute they go to open the door to let the passengers know that they are full, we have had multiple instances in which people begin to rush the bus and begin to just force their way on. And so, of course, that presents another safety issue of which route do they take by pulling over, and they want to let the passengers know. But if they see that multiple are standing there, the best option is, of course, to have it on that front marquee to let the passengers see that, hey, this bus is full. So we've taken both options. Initially, that was the option that we were facilitating, was the drivers pulling over. But at that point, we had to start putting it on the front marquee as well. Because of course, as we know, it can produce another safety issue on their end to pull over and to try to let them know and try to have that conversation. But of course, you don't know how long that passenger may have been standing there, which also goes back to being fully transparent on our service was not meeting the goals that we needed to meet. And so it's not enough to just say that we were doing everything was necessary, because no, we weren't. And so now that we have taken all of that feedback into place and now tried to rectify the situation with the schedule, our hopes is that now by ramping up the service on those lines, it kind of minimizes that impact of having as many frustrated passengers, and they're reducing their wait times to where when that driver is able to pull up, we're not having as many instances of being overcrowded. And even as of just yesterday, looking at the data that we had with the changes that we made to these lines, looking at the number of overcrowding instances just on our high ridership lines, like a Woodward, like a Gratiot, like a Grand River, I'm looking at the numbers now that shows that even just on yesterday, the instances of drivers reporting that they were overcrowded decreased by over 60%. So going forward, the hope is that this kind of keeps working its way up, and as drivers continue to return off of leaves and off of being out for COVID-related issues, we can kind of keep ramping this up as we go. But it first had to start with a complete overhaul of how we were facilitating and how we were filling our service.
Okay, so it's for the safety of the driver as well. Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Yeah, I can jump in real quick if you don't mind. This is Chief Brown again. We were running into a high level of malicious destruction of property to the buses whenever they stopped to even just advise people. People would pick up a rock and break a window out of frustration and anger. So that's why Mr. Smith and company had to come up with the best approach that will prevent that kind of damage and provide safety for other passengers as well as our drivers.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see if that vandalism and destruction abates after we've gotten all this additional buses on these frequent lines or the top 10 lines. So that's good. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Smith or anything related to the fixed line system? Do we need to like to talk about that?
Yeah, this is Tamara Perrin.
Okay.
And I want to know, in the case of with this vandalism, why or is there an opportunity for DDOT to request of the mayor to do on the news a little blurb or public service announcement to address that, so that people can know that we're trying to provide the types of services, but vandalism doesn't help, to make people aware of what they're doing, because that costs money and then injuries and then a greater liability. So it becomes a domino effect in economics when they act out in this way. So how can this information be shared to the general public so that this can stop?
I do believe you bring up a good point. And again, with our new executive director, that is something that is on his table, which is creating different mass marketing pieces that we can put out regarding that. But of course, it's all about, of course, as we know within the community and within the city of Detroit, it's all about perception. It's all about how we word it and how we put it out. Because I don't think it is just enough to just release the information without it being able to be misconstrued into some other way of blaming all people when it's not everyone. And so I think that right now the people are in place, and those conversations are taking place now to make sure that we are getting the information out, but not just getting it out in the right manner and in the right hands.
Well, again, like I said, a PSA would be helpful, and because as you say, people are frustrated and they get frustrated. A lot of times they don't understand the big picture. And I think it's the responsibility of those people who are the implementers, of the policymakers, et cetera, of the procedures to try and lessen the prevalence of negative behavior when we educate them that that's a solution. That's something we can do. And it doesn't matter if we're, I'm not saying targeting just that particular group or vicinity. It's sending a broad message across all the areas so that everybody gets the same message.
No, you're absolutely correct. And again, that is something that is being discussed now in regards to how it will be put out and the time frame as well. So no, you're not off base there. That is something that is in place.
How you doing?
Does someone have anything else for Mr. Smith? Okay. The next agenda item is public comments. I'm not, is that how we're handling public comments? Is it raising your hand to give a
Yes.
comment?
So if you have a public comment, if you could please raise your hand. I know there's about 6 or so attendees who have their hands raised. I just moved I see Renard here, and we will open the floor for him to speak and go from there.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Good morning.
We can hear you.
Okay, I've been having issues with my audio. lately. I just want to make sure I'm heard. Okay, my question pertains to the fixed line bus route. I know that there's a new campaign or something about the yellow glove to bring awareness to drivers. And I wanted to thank the gentleman earlier that spoke to the drivers for trying to reach them about ADA awareness. There are individuals who have the disabled DDOT destination card, which means prior to this that they were entitled to low fares. Even though they may not have a visible disability, what is the department going to do to bring more awareness to this yellow glove campaign? So this is a kind of an oversized yellow glove. You put it, individual puts it on their hand, and that signals to the driver, hey, I have a disability, I'm entitled to board the front, and can you let me board the front? Because there's been incidences where individuals with disabilities that aren't visible are being discriminated against in terms of, and that's an accusation without the reports, I get that, that are not able to board the front of the bus. And that goes on the department and the lack of the department to do some adequate training and awareness on disabilities and things of that sort. And regardless of this pandemic, federal law and FTA regulations still stand. And I know you all know that. So what is going to be done about raising awareness about non-visible disabilities, in addition to individuals that have the physical disabilities, to make sure that they are still able to board the front of the bus as they're legally and federally entitled to? Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this body.
Well, with regards to the yellow mitt, it has been communicated that we do have such a program on our website. And if you look in that, there's a description on that. I know that customer service is also aware of that. And when people have issues where they talk about problems with disabilities, that they are usually transferred to me, and I discuss that. The yellow mitt is basically for those who are blind and in wheelchairs, but primarily, but all disabilities who have a problem with getting to a bus stop and need the ability to hail a rider, a bus. So yeah, I think that as we've talked about communication and some of the things that we can do in the future, we'll have that as part of the overall communication about ADA and disability issues and DDOT issues, so that we can communicate a little more effectively. As you heard, there's a lot of conversation about different things that need to happen in terms of where we stand with the fixed route and COVID-19 and such. So that, I think, is evolving. But if you would like to talk about this further, you can always call me on my cell phone, and I'll just give that out, 313-573-2708. And I'll be glad to discuss that further and talk about some of those other things in more detail than time allows at this point, Mr. Bernard.
Okay, I'm getting ready to move Mr. Bryant. His name is Andre Bryant. 1 minute.
Mr. Bryant, did you have a comment? Okay, maybe we can come back to him. Who's the next person with their hand raised for a comment?
I'm going to move Mr. Rice, Darryl Rice, over to the panelist section for comment.
Mr. Rice, do you have a comment? You'll have to unmute your phone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes. This is a Metrolift comment question. in regards to passengers having to wear a face mask, is there any protocol for drivers to refuse a passenger if they choose not to wear their face mask? Because while they're debating with that prospective passenger to enter the vehicle and they don't want to wear their mask, they're wasting time, precious minutes, 5 or 10 minutes debating at the end of the day, and the passenger may end up riding. Is there any protocol to deny travel?
Thank you, Mr. Rice, and that's a very valid point because it has come up before. I am working with Josh to get something finalized. Right now, we are encouraging each of the rider to make sure that they have face covering when getting on the vehicle, when they schedule their reservation. And clients understand that that's what the protocol is. If a driver arrives at a location and a client does not have the face covering, the driver contacts us, and then we then reach out to the consumer just to reiterate that that driver will not be able to transport him until he has a face covering on. And usually in the cases that we have experienced, the client does put the face covering on or the mask and boards the vehicle to be transported to their destination. And of course, we make sure that we reiterate when scheduling a reservation or when traveling, it is imperative. It's a governor's order that you must have the face covering on to be transported.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Mr. Bryant, are you there?
Yes. First, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, I want to apologize to everybody. I was just having probably the way the Zoom was laid out. I had to get used to see where everything was. I had two questions. One, I wanted to let you know that I do want to be a part of the pilot program. And the second question is, as far as our certifications to get recertified, do we still come down? I know it's a pandemic and everything, but do we still come down to DDOT to get our ID if we need to get recertified? What's the protocol for that? Because mine will be expiring soon.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bryant. And I will definitely document that you are interested in becoming one of the participants for the program. Thank you so much for your service and volunteering for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Now, regarding the certification, we do have a recording on the phone line. However, if you don't remember, that will be another reference. You are able to call in and speak with our customer care department in order to extend your certification. So it is not necessary to go to the DDOT office. No one is seeing, we aren't seeing any clients there. So you would call into the number, contact customer care, and we would be more than happy to grant your extension for your ADA certification or your New Freedom certification.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any more comments?
Yes, I'm going to move Ms. Marguerite over to the panelist section.
Good morning, Marguerite. You have a comment?
Yes, I do. I do. Thank you. My comment is hold on. Let me put it up on my phone. Hold on. It's due to the DDOT virus. As drivers to make sure they are following ADA regarding service dogs and the amount of passengers to sit behind the drivers. Did you get my comment?
So you're asking that we make sure that the drivers know that the ADA compliance and that passengers should or should not sit by the drivers.
No. It's the first part is right, but the second part of it is following the ADA regarding service dogs.
She says she's talking about the ADA in connection with service dogs.
Okay.
And the amount of passengers should sit behind the drivers.
And she has the question about the number of passengers that need to sit behind the driver.
Or who can sit?
Correct. Thank you.
Larry Smith, do you have an answer to that?
Yes, I'm on here. So in order to maintain proper social distancing right behind that driver area, to maintain that 6 feet protocol, it is 2 that would be allowed behind there.
Is that 2 passengers and 2 wheelchairs, or just 2 people
That's 2
total?
total. That's 2 people total.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Thank you, Don. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
And there is another question. When the drivers pull up to the curb, they are not doing it correctly.
When the drivers pull up to the curb, they're not doing it the right way, not correctly.
Thank you.
You mean to board, Marguerite, in order to, so that you can board properly? Okay, that's a long time issue with you, right? That drivers are not coming up to the curb, so when they put down the ramp, when you request it, that it's done properly so that people can efficiently come up.
Yes, but I do not use the ramp because
It's not only the ramp, it's just being able to board it without having problems to get up into the bus.
I don't use the ramp, is what she said.
Right, I got that.
So an additional piece to that, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is that constant training, being on a rotationary basis with all of the drivers, making sure that we are hitting them with the proper information, as well as each week they are reminded every time that they check in to, number one, ADA are allowed to board at the front. Also making sure that they are kneeling the coach and pulling up as close as they can to the curb. So that is a piece of the training and the information that we send out. And we do have, as of right now, still a CAN message running across the driver console. And for those that aren't aware, a CAN message is basically a little notification that we send out to the drivers. And this message runs every 15 to 20 minutes on that driver's console to remind them, number one, to allow you to board at the front. Number two, make sure they are kneeling the coach. And number three, making sure that they are pulling up as close as possible to that curb.
okay. Thank you.
You are most welcome.
Thank you.
Marguerite, and who do we have next?
Okay, I'm gonna bring over Mr. Franklin.
Okay.
1 second.
Good morning. Ms. Franklin.
Yes, good morning.
You had a comment?
Yes, I do. I know that prior to the pandemic, in regards to the fixed route, if there was an individual in a wheelchair or who may have a yellow glove who was not able to board the bus because it was overcrowded, the protocol would be for the driver to contact base and let them know that the wheelchair rider or the person with a disability was still at the stop, so that a vehicle could be sent for them. So what I just heard was only 2 individuals with disabilities were able to board the bus. So if you already have 2 individuals on the front of the bus, what provisions is the department making to ensure that that disabled rider in a wheelchair who is blind, on a walker, maybe someone with a yellow glove who has invisible disabilities is accommodated?
So that process from pre-COVID is actually still the current process. That has not changed. If the driver does arrive and they are at their capacity for the front or the back, especially for the front with the ADA community, they are still required to radio to dispatch to let them know where they are, the stop, and then we can get a road supervisor to that area, as well as to try to dispatch another coach to the area as soon as possible. So that is still the current practice.
So in the event that a driver does not call into dispatch, what do you suggest that the rider do?
I would suggest contacting the customer service because at that point, the information is relayed over to me as well as to our dispatch team from customer service to make sure that that notice is sent out. So even if they are not pulling over, they can still contact the customer service line to get that information over to us, and we can still get a rapid piece in place to get a bus over there.
Okay, thank you so very much.
And I will just jump in real quick. Larry is 100% right. Many times they'll call customer service and I immediately call Larry and he's right on it. So hopefully somebody has a cell phone and is able to do that, but we usually take care of them right away.
Okay, great. Jennifer?
Okay. Yes, we have one more person I'm going to move over, but before I move Mr. Hanshu over, I just want to give a reminder for those who are on the phone, you have to press *9 to raise your hand so we can get you over here to the panelist section for questions. So Mr. Hanshu, I'm going to move you.
Good morning, Mr. Hanshu. Mr. Hanshu, we cannot hear you.
Okay, I believe I'm finally unmuted.
We can hear you now.
Thanks. The first one, I have a couple of questions, but they'll be fairly brief. But before I get to the questions, the rumor is out in the community that a company, and I may get the name wrong, so if I do, please help me get it right, you all, that a company called Joyride is trying to get back as a vendor to the system. I wanted to let you all know that in the disabled community, if you get 3 of us in a room, you wind up with 5 different positions. We don't agree on much. Everybody's got their own opinion. I was not in the city of Detroit when that company was used as a vendor, but the only thing I've ever heard the entire community agree upon is that that company gave DDOT the worst name of any possible activity or mistake that you've ever made. So I think that you all need to know that the entire community never wants to see that company pull up to their door again. My question goes to the first question is, I've been seeing documentation in other cities of different kinds of new technologies being applied to quick cleaning of buses, blue lights and one thing and another. And I wondered whether, are we using any of these new technologies? Are we considering them? I know it might seem that gee, this is just a short-term situation and we can't invest in this new technology for, because we might not be using it in 3 months. Yeah, but we might be using it in 3 years too. So that's my first question for you.
All right, this is Larry Luckett. I'll answer that one now. And you have
Before you start, I just want to bring clarification to his earlier point. Are you referencing Enjoy?
Yes, that. I believe that's correct.
Okay.
I did indicate that I wasn't sure if I had the name right because it was not during my tenure here. But since nobody else had mentioned it, that's what I'm talking about. And
Okay.
I figured if we babble about it in behind closed doors, we can't complain that you'd ever heard it. So you need to hear it.
All righty, thank you. And
Thank you.
Sure.
All righty, so I'll answer your first question. You're absolutely correct. There is technology out there in different fashions as it relates to the clean air, if you will, on the bus and killing viruses and germs and whatnot. So last week,
Lori, we cannot hear you.
Larry, you went out.
He may be experiencing some technical challenges there.
If he's in the office, he probably is.
Can someone address Steve's question in regards to Enjoy?
What was the question?
The question was, there is in the rumor mill that Enjoy may be returning to the paratransit service. And is that true?
There is an RFP going out for a contract because the present contract will expire next year. So I'm going to say that, to my knowledge, the rumor is not true because the RFP has not even went out yet.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you.
I agree
You're
with
welcome.
Pam. We've heard nothing, and rumors are rumors.
Right.
Well, I would like to make a comment. This is Tamara Perrin. In regards to this particular vendor that wants to reapply, I think that the community who has this information about them should send in a formal request from and say where Steve stated everyone agreed upon, that they should send in a formal statement stating that they would appreciate rejecting their proposal because of the level of service that has been received, so that DDOT has a formal statement regarding that particular vendor.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, I see that Mr. Luckett is back with us. Did you want to provide any comments?
yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So to answer the question earlier, yes, there is technology out there that relates to the air and cleaning of the air on buses with blue lights and filtration and a couple different ways of doing it. So DDOT participated last week in an informational program as it related to that technology. So we are looking at putting a pilot together real soon to put a system in place to clean the air on the buses as the air circulate through the bus. So look forward to that technology coming. I'll let Don and you all know once that pilot is out there in service, and we'll see how it performs. But as it relates to, sanitizing, we're still sanitizing buses as they are in service, and also once they hit the home domicile, we clean them as well. So it should be good there. All right.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other hands raised, Ms. Jennifer?
Yes, we do. We have a caller, and I'm going to move this person over, and you would need to unmute you here. And if you could state your name and your question.
Screen dimmed.
Okay. I'm going to unmute the caller. Your last 3 digits we have is 641. You have the floor.
Telephone caller, *6 to unmute your phone. Telephone caller, last 3 digits, 641. Did you have a comment? We cannot hear you. Try *6 to unmute your phone. Unless you use the mute button on your phone. All right, Jennifer, we can move on to the next person.
Sure. Moving on to the next caller with the last 3 digits ending in 579. Please unmute your phone and state your name.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 579. It's *6 to unmute and mute your phone on the keypad.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Ms. Roundtree speaking. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get into the meeting. I don't know what happened there, but I wasn't able to get in. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry I wasn't able to get into the meeting. I don't know what the technical problem was, but because I don't have a computer, I only have a cell phone, and I couldn't get in. But I wanted to say the meeting went well. And the thing about Enjoy had a problem with the city, so I don't know if the city would let them come back and work for them again or not. So I don't know if a letter is necessary, but if it is, people could send in letters saying that they didn't want Enjoy to come back, but they did have a problem with the city. Also, another thing that I like to bring up, I know a couple of people had brought up the point about getting information out. We need to get out more information about why the buses only pick up a certain amount of people on the long line, and because it has to be that way, because we're not telling people that. The people don't know and they get upset. Now, I watch the news every morning at 5 or 6 o'clock. If other people can tell them information about different things, that you can only have so many people going to line up in the stores before you can get in, and that they have seniors that come in at certain times in the morning just for seniors to shop. We can say that only certain number of people are going to be on the bus at a certain time, and that's it. We need to get that information out so people can understand that, and they won't be upset. What they know, they'll go along with. Then if that may mean, okay, whether I catch the bus instead of the 8 o'clock bus, I'll catch the 7:30 bus because there'll be less people there. So that will be the information that they need to get done. But if we don't tell them that, they don't know that. They don't understand why the bus is leaving them. So that's information we need to get out. That is DDOT's job. And if they got to tell information, they can also run that on the TV station when they have this on the city stations, or have it on the website. Let them know, because then people can make themselves aware of it and makes it better for them. What else was I going to say? Also, make sure that when the operators tell people, when they make their schedule runs for them, make sure they say to them, don't forget you have to have a mask when you ride Metro Lift. Make sure you have a mask. You cannot get into the vehicle without a mask. You can be polite and say it, make it part of what you have to say to them, that you have to have a mask. It's no big thing. We may have to do this for a long, long time now. We don't know how much longer we're going to have to do it. So just make it part of what they say before they hang up. Don't forget you have to have a mask. We tell them they can only have 3 bags when they go shopping, so tell them they have to have a mask. And if they don't have a mask, they cannot take their ride. Just tell them. And I think it'll go well. It won't be no problem. They know and they don't know. If they don't have a mask, they won't. They won't be able to get in the ride, and the driver would just have to leave them, and that's it. You won't have to sit there and argue and fuss or whatever. And if you have something to give them, and you'll give it to them. Either they'll put it on or they won't go. Because sometimes folks might forget. Because sometimes I do. That's why I put an extra one in my bag. So that'll work. And I thank you very much. I think the meeting went quite well today. Hello?
Thank you, Ms. Roundtree.
Anybody have any questions for me or anything they would like to say to me?
Ms. Roundtree, I'll call you a little bit later. There's some logistical things with the LAC and what happened today because of technology that we're going to have to talk about and figure out. But because like you said, I think our November meeting might have to be Zoom, and I'd like to clean up some of the barriers that people had today trying to get on, and we're going to have to figure some things out. So.
Okay. Jennifer, do we have any other raised hands?
I do not see any more additional raised hands.
Okay, caller with the numbers ending 641, are you unmuted and still on the call? All right, going once, going twice. All righty, with that being said, our next agenda item is other business. Is there any other business? For those of you who are not on the panel, you can raise your hands. For those of you that are on the panel, you may just unmute your microphone.
I'd just like to say, Sabrina, that there's been some technical difficulties here today with people trying to get into the system. I'll talk to Jennifer and some others about that, and we'll try to make it so that like we didn't have a quorum for the LAC today to do, you know, the pass motions and such. So we'll have to figure out how to get everybody involved some way or another so that we can make sure we can conduct our business accordingly. And likewise, some of the other folks that have had technical things, we'll talk about, try to clean up before the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good. With that being said, the next is to entertain a motion to adjourn, and the next meeting is scheduled for November 17th of 2020 at 10 a.m. And current standing is planned to be on Zoom, but that may change. So,
Right, but at this point, just plan on Zoom.
okay.
We'd love to change it. Let's put it that way.
Yep. So one of the members of the move to adjourn.
I make a motion. This is Tamara Perrin. I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, so move. The meeting has been adjourned. Thank you.